Gone are the days of lining up at stores on midnight releases and getting the things that you wanted to get because you had the money and you just got it. Switch 2 pre-orders went live last night and it was a nothing short of a disaster. There were 4 selected retailers by Nintendo officially that were going to be releasing the Nintendo Switch 2 pre-orders. As you know, if you're in the US, there was a delay in pre-orders. I believe it was meant to be released 2 weeks ago. But given with the talks of the tariffs and all the uncertainty of the market, Nintendo decided to push that back. One would hope that giving retailers enough time, even 2 weeks in advance to prepare for this, would have made this process a little bit easier, but alas, it was a repetition of what I lived through in 2020 trying to get a PlayStation 5. Although not as crazy, because it did take me a whole month of trying every single night to get a PlayStation 5. So at least kudos to Nintendo for having enough consoles out there, where this wasn't a continued effort just trying to buy a single piece of hardware. But last night, Target, Best Buy, and Walmart all had their midnight releases. It was mostly midnight in Eastern time, so me in Central, I had to be there at 11, and it took me around, I want to say 40 minutes to get a Nintendo Switch 2 pre-order. I got the bundle, the Mario Kart bundle, and a few other goodies here like the case and the Donkey Kong Bonanza. But I think this is kind of very reminiscent of a bigger issue in the gaming industry and just retail business in general. Over the past decades, like 2 decades at least, online shopping has boomed. And don't get me wrong, there are some very good things about online shopping that I really do like. I don't like being sold to. I hate going into stores and being approached right off the bat by a sales associate trying to get me. I know they're just trying to help, but I know they're also just trying to get the sale. And it just puts this unnecessary pressure on me to try and spend money. That's the whole reason. I understand. I used to work in retail. I know what it means to sell in person. I used to sell shoes. So I understand how clearly I have a thing for shoes. And I understand the goals that these stores have to hit. I understand it. But online shopping made the shopping experience a little bit more chill. It gave you more time to think about your purchases, and it gave you more time to research what you're looking at, trying to find the best deal out there, etc., etc. But there are other things that online shopping legitimately made worse, such as like last night, the websites that a lot of these big box retailers, these are huge companies, Walmart, multi-billion-dollar company, and they still can't figure out bots, and they still can't figure out their websites not crashing. It's just incredible. It was a headache. Target, apologies for my French, but Target, for everything they've done recently, but at the same time, they were probably the worst out of them all. I kept getting errors trying to get this thing checked out from my card. Which at the same time, I'm kind of glad I didn't give Target any of my money. But where it finally hit for me was Best Buy. Best Buy has been pretty good for me over the last few years. I haven't had any issues. I like their store pickup. I think is one of the most well thought out and planned ways of picking up any sort of stuff. Yeah, sometimes there's only one person working the pickup desk, but at the same time, they're really well about everything, and they kind of get you in and out of the door pretty quickly. And then this morning, GameStop did open their in-person ordering with people lining up outside the stores. I saw people lining up like 2-3 hours beforehand, and there were already like 30-40 people in line. And a lot of people saying that was probably the best way to go forward to pre-ordering the Switch 2, because they say it was a really nice experience. There were reports of even GameStop employees giving people waters outside and like giving them updates about how everything's gonna go. And it seems that almost everyone was able to get a pre-order Switch through the actual in-store pre-ordering process. But there were a few things that I did want to tackle around this whole Switch 2 pre-order mess. First and foremost, there was a lot of promises, especially from Walmart, saying that a guarantee from the actual retailers that they would get these consoles delivered on delivery date, on the actual launch date, June 5th. A lot of them promised wrong, because my specific one, my Best Buy order, isn't going to be available till the day after, the Friday, June 6th. It's a bit of a, kind of like disappointing thing. I don't have any issues waiting an extra day, but it is a little bit annoying when, retailers promise these deliveries and then they just don't deliver. So I opted out of just picking it up in store, because I'd rather just be able to go there and get it and bring it home rather than waiting for a truck to show up. And even then, it's not even confirmed. They might be late and they might just have to delay it one extra day. So I decided to cut my losses and just go straight to pick up from the store. However, there's not just that issue with the retailers. It's also Nintendo not being able to even fulfill the demands for certain countries for the Nintendo Switch 2 pre-orders. It was reported a couple of days ago that actually Nintendo will not, officially from Nintendo, they will not have enough Switch 2 consoles to satisfy the demand in Japan. Here, Nintendo Life reports that Nintendo's president Shintaro Furukawa has announced that the company will not be able to satisfy demand for the Switch 2 on launch day in Japan, which is insane. Japan is probably Nintendo's second biggest market, probably third, right after the US and Europe, but still pretty insane that the country where Nintendo's from isn't going to be able to provide the Nintendo Switch 2 to their audience, which is insane. Approximately 2.2 million people in the region had applied for the pre-order lottery system via the My Nintendo store, a number which Furukawa states far exceeds the number of Nintendo Switch 2 consoles that can be delivered at launch. A whole country not having 2.2 million Switches available is a little bit insane, but at the same time, I gotta remember a lot of things. Like this brings back memories of the 2020 pandemic, like when supplies were very minimal and just the supply chains were insane. People weren't getting their deliveries in time. There were so many delays at seaports and whatnot. It was just a complete mess. But for Nintendo to have to acknowledge this is another level of not necessarily a bad thing, because this is Japan. Japan isn't necessarily affected by the tariff situation that we have here in America. They're obviously affected by it, but they don't necessarily have tariffs in place with Vietnam or China or whatever. And it's business as usual for them. What this for me tells me is that Nintendo is at top of their game. Nintendo is projected that the Nintendo Switch 2 console to be one of the best console launches in history. That is insane to me to think, especially when it's essentially the second version or the second iteration of the same hardware. Like, I don't believe I've ever experienced this. You didn't experience it obviously for the Wii U. You didn't experience it necessarily for the PS3, from PS2 to PS3. You didn't necessarily experience it from the Xbox One to the Xbox Series X. It is just incredible to me to see just how much Nintendo is continuously succeeding and following finally a formula that works for them. But the official statement from Furukawa was, "We have been procuring many materials and proceeding with production in advance so that we can deliver the Nintendo Switch 2 to you. On April 2nd, we announced details about the Nintendo Switch and started accepting applications for the lottery sale on the My Nintendo store. As a result, we received an extremely large number of applications, approximately 2.2 million people in Japan alone. However, this number far exceeds our expectations and far exceeds the number of Nintendo Switch 2 consoles that can be delivered from the My Nintendo store on June 5th. Therefore, unfortunately, we expect a significant number of customers will not be selected when the winners are announced tomorrow on April 24th. Furukawa states that Nintendo will be strengthening our production system in response to the high demand, while confirming that retailers and online stores across Japan will be commencing their own pre-orders and lottery systems on the 24th of April. He ends the statement with an apology and a pledge to continue producing and shipping a considerable number of Nintendo Switch 2 units in the future. Now, furthermore, there were also reports from Nintendo that the Switch 2 launch day delivery is not guaranteed from Nintendo in the US, saying that your invitation email may arrive well after the Nintendo Switch 2 launch. Insane. Insane. Now, for y'all that didn't know, initially we were going to get the invitations, if I'm not mistaken, in May, but not everyone has gotten that invitation yet. Obviously, it's getting pushed apparently now past June. Nintendo has provided an update for those who have registered their interest in purchasing the Switch 2 directly from the My Nintendo store in the US. Much like Japan, Nintendo is currently experiencing very high demand and has therefore noted that delivery by the launch day on the 5th of June is not guaranteed. Adding further salt to the wound, it's also stated that some invitation emails might not even arrive until after the console is released. It will be operating on a first-come, first-served basis, so if you're relatively quick registering your interest, then you might be okay. It is pretty insane to me how much demand there is surrounding this thing. Now, I'm not saying that I didn't expect the Switch 2 to be successful. Obviously, that's crazy, especially with the success of the Switch 1. But it's just incredible to me to see that Nintendo strategies are finally paying off after having to deal with the headache that was the Wii U. It's just incredible how in less than 10 years, Nintendo was able to turn around the company's projections and just essentially deal with such an exorbitant amount of support. It is incredible to me. Regardless, I was able to cop, obviously, my Nintendo Switch 2 Mario Kart World bundle. Regardless, I still think that there is a lot to work when it comes from the retail side. For being able to make this release and any other pre-order console launches, game launches, whatever it may be from retailers. I feel that retailers should be aware of just how big and just huge the demand is for gaming in general. It's no longer a niche interest. It is a mainstream interest. Everybody plays video games, especially since the Nintendo Switch first launched. You have now, grandmas playing Animal Crossing. You have now a wider audience of people playing video games. Now it's not just, little boys playing video games or teenagers playing video games. It is a wide variety of people that just absolutely love playing video games. And now that a lot of the consoles, well, Nintendo specifically, are releasing their consoles as sort of a one device per person type of model. No longer do you have to share a console while you're at home. I don't believe there's any person who's a gamer. I think they at least have one or minimum two consoles, regardless of what it may be. Me, myself included, I bought 4 Nintendo Switches in my lifetime. This is going to be the 5th one, but it's a Switch 2. Regardless, it's just amazing to me that retailers just don't really always kind of, for lack of a better term, shit the bed when it comes to these console releases. And then you have issues like last night where you have constant errors, where you have just everything crashing, not enough resources being delegated to the release of what is essentially going to be the biggest and the best and most successful hardware release ever in the history of gaming. Just incredible. But it even seems that even falls on Nintendo because they don't even have enough supply to satisfy the demand. But folks, you let me know down in the comments below what you think of this Nintendo Switch 2 release so far. I'm comparing it to the 2020 release of the PlayStation 5 and how much of a headache that was in comparison to that. A whole month of me trying to just get a console through every single site known to man, having alerts. I would stay up till 2 a.m. sometimes just waiting for that drop. I was almost even ordering a console from the UK. Like, that's how desperate I was. To this, where it literally just took me 40 or so minutes of trying, which is still kind of insane, but still I'm able to get one at my local Best Buy and just pick it up on the release date. Hopefully, it just shows that just how uniquely insane the situation was during the pandemic. But even then, now where everything's supposedly working, regardless of tariffs and whatnot, it just shows just how successful this thing is going to be, to the point that Nintendo can't even produce enough of these for the high demand that it is in one of their top markets. I would not want to know what it would have been like if this console released during the pandemic, because, oh God, I'm pretty sure there would have been, if fires started at retail shops, like it would have been probably insane. There would be riots at malls. I'm just glad that didn't happen. But folks, you let me know in the comments below, were you able to cop a Nintendo Switch 2 pre-order? Did you try at the GameStop? I'm really interested to hear from people that actually went to GameStop in person to make those pre-orders, because I kind of want to know what the experience was like there. I've only heard of a handful of experiences that have been mostly positive, but I'm really interested to see like how these stores tackle the demand. But let me know down in the comments below. Folks, I've been True Fernie. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe. If you didn't like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs down, because believe it or not, every single bit helps. Links to my socials are down below. Please make sure to follow me on Blue Sky, where I spend most of my waking hours talking about gaming, talk about anything and everything that might interest you as my viewer. But folks, please take care of one another, but most importantly, take care of yourself. Peace.